All right, thank you for being here. This is the City of Garden City Planning and Zoning Commission meeting on Wednesday, October 15, 2025 at 6:30. Confirming audio and video is working and we are good.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. We will now call the meeting to order. For the record, Commissioners Wilde, Brown, and Shepard are present, with Smith being absent. And so at this point, we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's be blessed, take the flag of the United States of America. Which is a republic, which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, are there any changes to the agenda at this point?
Chairman, staff would like to suggest relocating item number 5D, subdivision fiscal year 2025, number 4, to be the first item under new business under number 5.
Sounds good. We will look to have a motion to move that in once we get into the consent agenda.
Thank you.
This commission provides for public hearing for quasi judicial administrative land use decisions, appeals, and legislative actions specific to land use regulations. This commission makes final decisions on conditional use permits, variances, and appeals, and makes recommendations to the city council for subdivisions, rezones, annexations, and code or comprehensive plan amendments. The format for the public hearing will follow this process for each application: presentation by the applicant, presentation by city staff, public testimony, rebuttal testimony from the applicant, discussion of hearing among the commissioners, and then the decision. If anybody is here from the public that wishes to give testimony, there are some general rules to abide by. No person shall be permitted to speak at the public hearing until the person is recognized by the chair to do so. The commission will not address those who speak out of order. If you have questions, you may ask them during your turn for public testimony, and the applicant can respond to them during the rebuttal, or the commission can ask the questions of staff during their discussion. If you'd like to sign up for testimony, the sign-up sheets are at the table at the entrance. Please sign up if you would like to give testimony. No person shall be permitted to testify at the public hearing unless recognized to do so. And if in person, then such person has signed their full name and written their residential address on the sign-up sheets. When you approach the podium, please clearly state your name and address into the microphone at the podium. All right, now on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda includes items of business which may not require separate discussion. From time to time, we may move an item to the consent agenda. At this time, I see that there are potentially 2 items that can be moved to the consent agenda. The first being CPA FY 2025-0002 Comprehensive Plan Amendment. This is Ada County is proposing a comprehensive plan to incorporate the capital improvement plan and impact fee study for coroner, jail, and EMS, and then potentially CPA FY 2025-003 Garden City Urban Renewal District, Glenwood/Chinden Urban Renewal Plan Review Request. Garden City Urban Renewal District is proposing a plan for a new district. Glenwood Chinden Urban Renewal Plan. So with those potential moves, we will then look at CPA FY 2025, which is the comprehensive plan amendment. Do we have the applicant here?
Chairman, we do.
Is the applicant
Mr. Beck.
Mr. Beck? How are you doing? Good, thank you. Have you reviewed this, and are there any conditions that you would have for this group not to hear the item on the action agenda and have this as a consent item?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, no objections to be on consent.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Is there anybody here from the public who would like to testify on CPA FY 2025-0002? Seeing none, staff, is there any reason why this item should not be moved to the consent agenda?
And Chairman, staff sees no reason why not.
Thank you, fellow commissioners. Any concern taking this to the consent?
No.
No.
No. All right. Next item, CPA FY 2025-0003, the Urban Renewal District. I believe that we do have the applicant here. And how are you doing today? Excellent. And so would you be acceptable for this item to be moved onto the consent agenda, or do you see any reason that you would like to discuss this with the fellow commissioners? Thank you very much. I don't believe this is a public hearing on this item, correct?
This, Chairman, this is not a public hearing. But staff does have just one point of clarification. When the plan came in, it was in its draft form, and at that point in time, it was called Glenwood Chittenden Urban Renewal Plan. It was noticed as such. But you will note that its final version, the Glenwood area has been removed, and it is now called South of Chittenden or Sochi.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else that you would make a comment on why this would not be moved to consent?
Chairman, staff only had that one minor clarification. So.
Thank you very much. Fellow commissioners, any reason why this item should not be moved to the consent?
Fine with me.
No. All right, thank you very much. So we have two items that we are proposing to potentially move this to the consent agenda. As for a motion to move those, and then we also have the modification to the new business to move SUB FY 2025-0004 to the front of the agenda. So the only other item that we have on the consent agenda prior to motion is the approval of the minutes from September 17, 2025. When there is a motion for the approval of those minutes, I will be recusing myself as I was not present for one of those items on that action or that agenda. So at this point, any other items for discussion?
No.
No. All right, hearing none, we'll have a motion for the movement onto the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Wilde,
I move I'm going to make a motion to move to approve the minutes of September 17th, 2025 of the Planning and Zoning Commission as part of the consent agenda, along with new business items A, CPA FY 2025-2, and item B, CPA FY 2025-3 as part of the consent agenda approval.
thank you, Commissioner Wilde. Jenna, do we need to include the movement in that motion for changing the agenda?
I'll probably just do it.
Okay.
separately. I'll add that item D, SUB FY 2025-4 also be moved to the first item of business under new business tonight.
I would second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any other deliberation on these items? Hearing none, we'll take it to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any noes? The ayes have it. So that will take care of the consent agenda. Thank you very much. Your items are good at this point. You can stay if you'd like, but you don't need to. All right, at this point, we'll start with the new business, the public hearing action item. Again, this is the item that was moved. SUB FY 2025-0004. Nick Louie with Urban LLC is requesting a combined preliminary plat, final plat subdivision reviewed as a planned unit development consisting of 11 residential lots and one common lot. The property is currently located at 3933 and 3921 Adam Street. Ada County parcels are 27345022303 and R27345022291 in the R3 zoning district. And if there's nothing else, I do believe, Ms. Veal, that this is being reviewed as a subdivision. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair, the applicant has wished to accuse the PUD aspect of the application.
All right, thank you. Just to keep that in mind with the fellow commissioners. Again, for the agenda, the format will follow the process of a brief introduction by the applicant, the city staff report, a public hearing, rebuttal testimony from the applicant, closing of the public hearing, and discussion amongst the commissioners. And then we will be a recommending body since this is a request for a subdivision, with the final decision coming before city council. So with that, we will go ahead and turn it over for the applicant. Yep. And if you could just state your name and address for the record. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have them. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Don't forget to share.
Okay on this. Going to
Just
Good evening. My name's Nick Louie with Urban Design Build. Want to start off by thanking staff and Hannah for helping us along the way and during the process of designing the subdivision. I'm with Urban and my architect Glenn Walker is here, as well as Pam Gaines, who's on Zoom. Our engineer on the project was David Evans and Associates, Derek Kerner. He should be on Zoom somewhere. And the property owner is Binion Buildings LLC.
Mr. Louis, can we just get your address for the record?
Yep, 128 South Eagle Road, Suite 200, Eagle, Idaho, 83646. To give you a little project overview, this site is located at 3933 and 3921 Adams Street in Garden City. It's plus or minus 0.56 acres of land in the R3 mixed-use residential zoning. We are proposing a 12-lot subdivision, which 11 buildable lots with one common lot. The subdivision will consist of one single-family home, one duplex, one triplex, and one fiveplex. We are proposing 27 total parking spaces, and 22 of those will be interior garage parking and 5 guest stall parking. We are also proposing 3,200 square feet of shared qualified open space throughout the project. So the purpose of this development, we're hoping to redevelop 2 underutilized parcels located at 3921 and 3933 North Adams. When I became part of the project, it was completely cleared, but I believe there was some old houses or mobile homes on the site at one point. And currently the site's completely clear. We hope to create attainable home ownership within a walkable infilled neighborhood. So doing the mix of unit types, we can, sell to several different classes. Hence why we're doing townhomes, single family throughout the project. We hope to support Garden City's comprehensive plan for compact, sustainable growth. And we want to integrate thoughtful architecture and landscaping that preserves neighborhood scale. So the site is located between Chinden Boulevard and Boise River Greenbelt, right off of Adams. It's walking distance to Veterans Memorial Parkway and local services and gas stations, really close to the Greenbelt, actually. It's fully served by existing infrastructure on Adams Street, and it's a strategic infill location supporting smart urban redevelopment. So I want to share with you kind of the site plan, which is the first sheet that I gave to you. Again, to kind of recap, it consists of 11 residential lots and 1 common lot. The minimum lot size on our site is 1,350 square feet, and the average lot size is 2,030 square feet. We're abiding by all the setbacks with 20 front, 15 rear, and a 0 to 5 foot side. We are proposing a private access drive coming off of Adams Street, going into guest parking, and we have a kind of hammerhead for fire turnaround. And we are going to contain all the stormwater on site with our stormwater management system and infiltration basins. Wanted to share with you kind of some of the renderings that we came up with. Originally, we started this project and everything on the site was congruent. It kind of looked the same, and all the units, you know, they didn't have different colors or anything. And after we met with DR, we decided to take their feedback and kind of change the units. So what we did is we changed the colors of like the garage doors and front doors for each unit so people could distinguish one from the other. So we now have a blend of architecture, variety, and unique entrances from one another. We have variation in facade materials for visual interest. And we have an emphasis on privacy and outdoor living, and each unit is energy efficient. And we do have a blend of unit types. So again, the single family, the duplex, triplex, and fiveplex. During our DR meeting, they really encouraged us to, you know, kind of look into the code and figure out how not only can we have different unit types, but how we can distinguish them from each other. And as a team, we just thought different colors throughout. And that's something we wanted to discuss with you guys. You know, we're open to changing colors, but we're willing to work with staff and do whatever it needs to, you know, meet code if we didn't already. So. Okay, so I'm gonna go over the community amenities and open space. So this development is required to provide at least 4 Class A amenities, or 2 Class B amenities, or 2 Class A and 1 Class B amenity, or 1 Class C amenity. We are providing 3 Class A amenities, which one is smart locks and thermostats for all the units. And the other is secure package lockers. And then we are also providing an open grassy area of at least 40 feet by 10 feet or 400 square feet in total, as well as we are providing 1 Class B amenity, which is a community garden located on the west side of the property, right by on the west side of the guest parking. We think that residents will end up using this, you know, for vegetables, and hopefully it can be a gathering place for the residents. For the open space requirements for any new development within 3 or more dwellings, a minimum of 80 square feet of private usable space shall be provided to benefit each dwelling. And so when we first started this project, the reason why we originally put in for a PUD is we couldn't meet that open space requirement because our balconies were 5 foot by 6 foot, and we needed a minimum 6 by 6. So what we did is we did a redesign after we met with staff at 0 hour and kind of redesigned, and we're able to meet that requirement, and hence we didn't need to ask for any alleviations. So we ended up pulling that PUD process with our new design. So as far as landscaping, we believe we meet, sorry if this is in the way. Oh, there we go. We believe we meet majority of the requirements. We did do a redesign over the past week, and I got to staff. I just don't know if they got the updated plans to you guys yet or not. But we took Hannah's feedback and what she wrote in the staff report, and we updated our landscape plan to meet the requirements. Might need some adjustments, but we think we're really close. So just to kind of give you a brief overview, we are required 1 Class 2 trees, and we were proposing 3 Class 1 trees. 2 are required. Let's see. For the perimeter landscape, for every 15 feet, there's 5 required, and we were proposing 5. We're shrubs at 1 for every 6 feet. There's 12 required, and we're proposing 12. So we're meeting or exceeding all those requirements, as well as the landscape area. So a minimum of 5% of gross site area and 1 tree per 1,000 square feet and 1 shrub per 150 square feet. So 5,217 square feet total landscape area. 5 trees are required for the landscape area, and we're proposing 10. As well as total landscape area of shrubs, 35 required, and we're proposing 158. We did add 2 trees at the north and south of the guest parking to satisfy one of the requirements in the staff report. So that got updated. as well as we added green trees and shrubbery on the west side of the property. So the headlights can't shine into the new River Place subdivision, as well as we added an additional tree there. So planter bed coverage, so we're required 70% and we are proposing 85% of coverage. Okay, so infrastructure and access. So this would be a private drive entered off of North Adams Street, and should be on the south side of Adams Street. We would connect to all municipal water, sewer, irrigation, and dry utilities. We would build the streets to ACHD standards and a turning radius for fire access, or a hammerhead, I should say. And we did meet with the fire department and they approved the plan. We are proposing on-site stormwater infiltration systems, so seepage beds. And a portion of this, if you look at the bottom here, a very small portion of this is in the floodplain. We are advised to build everything out of the base flood elevation, which we are proposing to do 2 feet above BFE, to eliminate insurance and just any risk in the future. And then we are providing pedestrian circulation to all the amenities. That was a recommendation from DR last week. So what we did is we added sidewalks throughout the asphalt to get to the community garden and to get to the mailboxes, and just kind of a 360 rotation around the site. So kind of to go over just code compliance summary. So we comply with all the density, we're proposing 11 units and it can support 12.8. The minimum open space we needed was 2,750 and we are proposing 3,200. We are required 27 parking stalls and we are proposing 27. We are compliant with all the setbacks. We are compliant with all the height restrictions, and we are compliant with the floodway or flood zone. So community benefits, so infill housing aligned. So this project is an infill project that aligns with the comprehensive plan of Garden City. We believe it will strengthen the neighborhood and diversity in housing options and affordability. It's walkable proximity to services in the Greenbelt. It has great streetscape and landscape improvements to enhance the public realm. And we also believe it expands Garden City's tax base through efficient land use. One item for discussion I'd like to share, and it was in the staff report and the one of Hannah's report for recommendation up for approval, is an easement that is along the south side of the property. So currently, I believe the comprehensive plan shows a public easement and walkway that would be 12 feet on the south side of the property. If you can see where this red marker is. It's a public access easement that's 12 foot wide along the south of the property and a 10-foot sidewalk with lighting. So the purpose of this easement and walkway would to be connect to future developments to the south, east, and west of our development. And we just had a couple issues with that, and we wanted to discuss it with planning and zoning and staff to kind of figure out how we can work around this and get a happy medium for everybody. So we did do our due diligence and reached out to the property owner to the east. His name is Damon Dixon. And he had put in a proposal, which are these two houses here. And this is kind of his site plan. He owns these two parcels. So he has a project to the east that has an approved lot split for 2 single family houses. So he has 2 lots and he plans on building 2 single family houses on those lots. We had reached out to River Place, the subdivision to the east of us, and they have not responded. And at our recommendation of staff and design review, they wanted us to try to connect our north-south walkway to their north-south, or somehow have a connection point between the two subdivisions. We've reached out several times with no callback. So we've done our part, we believe, but we can't get anywhere with River Place. Also, we think if we install or give an easement and install a walkway, so a 10-foot walkway on the back of our development, it would go to nowhere in our opinion. River Place subdivision to the east was not required to do that. And so our owners and our team got together and we thought, okay, if we installed that easement and install the walkway, we don't think it's going to go east. We don't think it's going to go west potentially, but that owner has no idea about it. So there's potential for it to go south from our property. And that's just, we're open to work with the city and staff and come to a happy medium, but we just want some clarity and get your guys' thoughts on that. And that is kind of the gist of the project. Do you have any questions?
Thank you very much. Any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Wilde. I had a question for you. So have
Sure.
you reviewed the draft decision document?
Yes.
And so is the only, because it sounds like most of the conditions that you were discussing are really in compliance with the subdivision?
Yes. Yep. So we had updated to make the subdivision compliant, except this easement we're talking about.
So the only thing in here that really is an issue for you is the easement?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, thank you, sir.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
it. At this point, we will hear from staff.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. The applicant did a great job summarizing the whole project. I do just want to clarify or just essentially reiterate the fact that this subdivision and PUD is no longer a PUD. And therefore, any of the code waivers that were mentioned in the staff report are completely voided. I was not able to fully get around to the analysis of those October 6th and 9th resubmittals. But at a quick glance, it does appear like code compliance is being met. But just in case, I did draft those conditions of approval in that decision document to ensure that the code compliance is met. But with that being said, it is completely within the commission's ability to continue this application to the November hearing to just double check and make sure that the analysis is correct. That's not what I'm recommending, but that is an option for you guys to make. Because a complete staff report is important. There are a few items within the staff report that weren't really hit tonight as in depth as I would like to present to you guys. They're mostly interpretation and just discussion items. So the first being regarding the lighting of the subdivision. We're working with new code and new ordinances. I did draft a potential condition of approval with how I have interpreted code. But more specifically, code speaks about lumens. And this might be really nitpicking at the code, but there is a fact that code requires, or code says that lumens should not be any greater than 260 lumens, which is a very dim light. So instead of requiring that lights can't be higher than 260 lumens, I've interpreted code to say it should not be instead of shall. And so instead of having that high limitation, I would suggest that it's an ability to show compliance with like dark sky compliance, prevent the light trespassing into adjacent properties or into the public right of way. And there's multiple ways that a subdivision like this can prevent that light trespassing. That isn't just limited to the 260 lumen output. And so in the drafted decision document, there's a condition that speaks to just having those lighted pathways for safety reasons. But it doesn't speak specifically to a lumen output. And I need to find that condition. It would be condition number 9 on page 12. Under for approval of construction plans, that number 9. It says that all light fixtures must be compliant with Garden City Code 84A4 outdoor lighting, and it then just says pedestrian pathway and common area lightings. So I would need to see a revised lighting plan showing compliance with that section of code. Like pedestrian scale lighting fixtures, compliant with dark sky standards, designed to minimize glare and light pollution, and shall maintain a consistent color temperature for visual comfort and safety. Okay, and then the next item up for discussion is the design of the facades. This is generally a design review comment or area of review, but given that it is, again, new code, I just wanted to bring your guys' attention to it. And that code now requires that each unit has some kind of uniqueness to it, whether it's different architectural variety, colors, materials, etc., just so we can and people can differentiate between the dwelling units, whether they're living there or they're guests. It does allow for paint colors to be different, and I'm not saying that what the applicant has now proposed isn't adequate. I just wanted to make sure that we had that discussion here tonight if you wanted to have that, or it can be sent up to City Council as well. There is a condition drafted to require coordination with staff, and if not, then it can go back to design review for further deliberations. And then I guess the largest piece of discussion would be the pedestrian connectivity throughout the site, specifically that southern pathway discussion. And so, and I can zoom in too, but along the southern portion of the property, there's a called out pathway system that runs essentially east to west throughout the whole city as a long range plan to get more pedestrian facilities through these large, long blocks. This particular pathway system does not exist. And the way we've required of previous developments is to have that easement in place, and then sometimes the construction is either required now or in the future. In the sense of River Place, the adjacent development, they had this east-west connection as well as a north-south connection. And the city only required the north-south connection because other parcels also adjacent to it have been constructed to have this pathway. So it seemed like a more realistic an immediate pathway connection as opposed to requiring both out of the River Place subdivision. So not requiring the River Place subdivision to construct this east-west pathway, it essentially is or would be dead ending this Amigos subdivision right at the shared property line. And the only way that we could get a future connection through there is if River Place was willing to construct a connection through their property, which we cannot require as part of this application. Or if a southern property, like south of Amigos, if that property, if, that's a big if, it decides to redevelop in a way that we can require a pedestrian connection through that property on Amigos and create some sort of pedestrian circulation that way. But as of right now, it seems like the adjacent River Place subdivision is dead ending this pathway, and then the Damon Dixon property also is potentially siloing this required pedestrian pathway that is called out in the Old Town Circulation Network plan. And I'll stand for any more questions.
Thank you, Ms. Veal. I do have a question on the last easement, just to make sure that I'm understanding and reading the decision document correctly. So it looks like the recommendation for the public access easement is located in two places. So that would be prior to the city signature on plat, item 3E4, is that correct?
Yes, so I'm sorry, I didn't go into that already. So on page 9, there's mention of the public access easement under 3E IV, so 4, which is calling for that 12-foot wide perpetual public access easement. And then there's also mention of it on page 11, number 5. Yeah, number 5.
And then, so if, I'm not saying that we would, but if we were to say that this was not going to be part of the decision, 6 wouldn't apply either. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, so, the yellow highlighted one, the number 3E4
Yep.
speaks to the easement in and of itself. And then number 5, the green one, is speaking to the construction of
Perfect.
the pathway.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Veal? Commissioner Brown?
Mr. Chairman, I want to follow up on your questions. I understand what we said with regard to what you're proposing is we essentially delete, in accordance with that, the east-west easement that would be put in there, but do we want to put anything in there in your thoughts with regard to the potential north-south, or just leave that to be worked out in the future?
Yeah, Commissioner Brown, the north-south connection is not on this property. So it would be on the adjacent River Place property.
Okay, that clarified that answer. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question. Thank you, Hannah, for your presentation. I might have missed where you said that we can't require River Point to put a south-north connection based off of this application, but do they have an easement already? I think you said it, but
Yeah, and I can pull up aerials. Let's see. There's some screenshots in my staff report that tried to illustrate
yeah.
of the staff report. So page 27 of the staff report kind of highlights these. And it's better than just aerial because it's taken from my GIS layers. So this top image is the north-south pathway that is currently under construction. It's not on this application's property. It's on the adjacent subdivision's property. But this pathway connects to then another subdivision's easement for the same purpose of a public bike ped pathway system. And then if you follow this trajectory north towards the river, it's not on the screen, but That is another subdivision that has a fully constructed, finalized public pedestrian pathway already. So that is why River Place, I believe, was required to construct this north-south pathway. But they were not required to construct the east-west despite the line, the anticipated public pathway system also running on the south of their property, where my cursor is. Right now, where my cursor is, that's River Place, and that is just perimeter landscaping there on their southern property boundary line.
Okay.
And so when I'm speaking to the southern pedestrian pathway for Amigos, it would just be this portion right here, and it would dead end at the shared property line of Amigos and then of this single family home property to the east.
Okay, I think I understand. So there's like a north-south connection and then that's the southern part of their property line, but it's not going,
Yeah.
it's going.
And, you know, southern is the easy reference, like, I guess, to call it. It's not technically due south, but, yeah, so where River Place subdivision is, they had a T, like a T intersection of these pathways, and they only had to do one. They didn't have to do the two. Amigos, so tonight they're dealing with the line that River Place did not have to install.
Okay, and is there a way for the east-west connection to meet up with the south? Cause based on like that map, it looks like it could,
It,
and I think I remember.
so it could, so this is.
Okay,
This is the shared boundary line,
Yeah.
so they would need River Place's participation in order to get it to go and connect to the north-south
Okay,
line.
thank you.
Mhm.
I appreciate you pointing that out. It's hard to.
Yeah, and then I guess to expand on that conversation, because it was in the staff report, and it is speaking to condition of approval number 6, another green highlighted condition. It was more in regard to trying to justify the private open space waiver request, which is no longer a thing, but we're trying to get that pedestrian connection from the common open space of Amigos to maybe connect with the common open space of River Place, because they are adjacent to each other. There's just going to be some landscaping and a fence line between them. So in trying to get the PUD to work and waivers, which again, not applicable anymore, that conversation of getting that interaction and pedestrian connections through there was just part of the discussion. So instead of having to go from Amigos around onto Adams and then down through River Place to get to that pedestrian pathway, if there was a through connection, then they could just go from one subdivision through the other straight to the pathway. But again, we can't necessarily require that. We can't require cross-access easements and agreements with River Place if they're not willing to do that at this point, because they are already an approved subdivision.
Any other questions for Ms. Veal?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Wilde?
Hannah, curb, gutter, sidewalk on Adams is all, I saw a note in there that they're all in good repair.
Yes.
They're already built out. So there is a good connectivity, pedestrian connectivity on Adams, which isn't everywhere in town, of course. And then storm drainage. Can you point out where that, is there a swale built into this?
I don't know exactly where the drainage is.
Yeah, Commissioner Wilde, I bel-
Yeah, maybe.
yeah, yeah, I believe that it was seepage beds. So
Yeah.
we'll just ask you that when you come back up for your rebuttal.
Thank you, that's all.
Yeah.
I do have a question, Ms. Veal. I believe that we had an applicant last month that was entertaining the same idea of pedestrian easement. Was that the same type of situation?
Mr. Chairman, it was same but different. So that application is a PUD. They did not withdraw their PUD aspect and mechanisms. And they were asking to get rid of their perimeter landscaping. So that way they could have a pedestrian pathway through their site. So the pathway was in lieu of the perimeter landscaping. They were also asking for a few other code deficiencies that, as through the PUD, they could ask for if they were giving something back to the community, which is what the PUD mechanism is used for. Ultimately, they were not required a public access easement, but they were required to install a mural along the facade of one of the townhomes
Okay.
as part of that.
Thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Veal? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, now we will open it up to public testimony. Is there anyone here that has provided a sign-in sheet?
Chairman, there are no sign-in sheets in the basket.
All right, thank you. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to testify on this matter? All right, seeing none. Then we will go back to the applicant for your rebuttal.
I'll kind of point out that seepage bed for you. I can zoom in. Okay, so the storm water drainage system's right here, and we have a seepage bed underneath this parking lot and the garden beds here. Right, and that will take all the water from the asphalt, and then obviously along Adams, they have their own drainage system. Does that answer? You're welcome. Yeah, in all, we think it's a great project. We've worked the past 7-8 months on it. Good team, a lot of redesigns with a lot of guidance from Hannah. She's been great to work with. We think we've tweaked as many things as possible. There's just a couple of things in question as a group and internally we think would look better and we prefer. But we want to meet code, right? So we like, as our team, we want consistency throughout the subdivision. We don't like the idea of several different colored doors and kind of make it look like the circus or something like that. But hey, we're open to it. We think it would look better if everything was consistent and congruent throughout the neighborhood. As well as we also think it would look better without the pathway, you know, because it's in our opinion, it's going to be a 10-foot pathway along the south of our subdivision that's hardly going to get used, and we'd rather have landscaping and trees and make it look beautiful. And we just think it'll be more private for the owners that own those units. So we hope you guys like the project, and I'm here for any questions.
Thank you very much. Do you have one of your slides? Can you show some renderings just so that we have a better idea of what you're talking about with, like on sheet A 1.4?
Yeah, so I just did snippets.
Okay.
So if are you talking about the colors of the building?
I think that works. And maybe if you could give us a bit of a narrative on how you see the individualized. So like with what you're doing here, how would you frame it that this is more individualized?
Yeah, let me zoom out. So what we did is originally all our units were the same design, same colors, right? And then we met with DR about a little less than a week ago. And although we have different individual unit types, meaning single family, you know, duplex, triplex, fiveplex, the code reads they want distinction between each unit within that building. And so within that code, it says you can have different variation in color. And so it was brought up as a recommendation to maybe potentially change the door colors to each unit, which we did. We changed the stucco colors between the units. So the fiveplex has a different stucco color than the duplex and triplex. And we also changed the garage doors, which you can't see on this slide, but I think in your guys' packet, you might have some photos of it. I will say, the garage door color that was picked, that is showing that you guys have, is gonna be changed. And I did mention that to Hannah today, because it's not our favorite.
Is that the green?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so don't hold that against us. And ideally, we would like to have more consistency and continuity in colors throughout the subdivision, but we're trying to meet code. That's at the end of the day, we want to get this project approved, and we'll do what it takes.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant?
I don't think I would.
No.
All right, thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
All right, at this time, we will now close the public hearing. This matter is now before the commission. We are recommending body to city council, and we can start with the discussion. Commissioner Wilde.
Well, easements and sidewalks to nowhere are nobody's favorite. But over the years, we've learned that sometimes they have to start somewhere. And this is not probably the one that I would say we need to start with and be the first, because I think it would, in the applicant's words, it wouldn't get used, and we can put that space to better, he can put that space to better use. And create some tree and shrub separation between that property on the south side. So I would be supportive of that requirement being removed. Design review is, the renderings are to me, I mean, it's a little bit subjective, but it's a little busy. So I think that's what I'm gathering is the input that you got from DR, which is in order to kind of separate one residence from another, we need to have different colors, different textures, different door colors. And that's all good until you get too busy. So I'm not going to say it's too busy, but to my eye it is. And I'll just leave it at that. And then I think the other one we were going to talk about was lighting, which we can, I don't think we need to talk about a lot. I think that just, you know, this question of whether we push this to the next meeting and verify compliance. And I think we can address that with this approval, which is to just address those conditions relating to lighting and dark skies and preventing light trespassing. So I'm in support of the project and recommending it move forward.
Thank you, Commissioner Wilde. Commissioner Brown.
I really want to second what Commissioner Wilde said. I really like the development. I want to thank you for removing them from the PUD process and having a regular subdivision. I'm really glad to see that we're making some changes so we're able to do that.
Yeah.
I think we've been doing good work in that regard, and I want to commend the staff for that. That being said, I'm 100% with Commissioner Wilde with regard to, as the board knows, I'm one that had been pushing a long time for sidewalks and connectivity, but this is not the place to try and require it. It would be just a 10-foot easement that didn't go anywhere. And so I'm in favor of doing away with that. With regard to the lighting, I think what I want to say is I'm in agreement with Hannah and whatever her wording. It sounded to me like she has worked something out that would be able to let them want to do it along with what Hannah suggested, that it be not worded strictly as the way it is in the code. And with regard to color differentiation, I agree with Commissioner Wilde again. I think that what we might want to change that from being something specific like what's up there to the wording, something to the effect that the actual differentiation having to do with colors and individual units be worked out with the staff. And they can sort of wrestle, the staff can wrestle with what the design consultant said and keeping in mind what we both have said with regard to that. And other than that, and originally I was thinking that we may be faced with continuing this, but I absolutely have decided against that. As of course, I think we can proceed with these adjustments and make a recommendation tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Commissioner Shepard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also want to just say thank you for the really nice presentation, and everything's really laid out. It was really easy to understand. Can you hear me okay? And that kind of thing. I appreciate that. And I appreciate the staff too for just making everything really easy to understand. I don't have anything else really to add because I agree with both Commissioner Brown and Commissioner Wilde. I think that the colors can be worked out with the design. I don't think we need to postpone it until or continue it until November. I'm in support of recommending approval tonight.
Thank you very much. I'll echo what the fellow commissioner said. It's nice when we have a clean application. It makes it a lot easier for us to get to a yes, especially when we've seen so many PUDs that come through and asking for a million things. So thank you very much. That was great. I really do like your vision here. And I'll start out with with the facade. I'll say that I think that it's way too busy, and it looks like you did that specifically to please them. I think it's crazy how many different surfaces you're using, how many different colors, how many different materials, and then you have the modulations on the front. It's all over the place in my opinion, but I'm not on design review. I'm on P&Z. So for what it's worth, I would say, like, I think that that's so busy that you just get lost in what it looks like. I think that if you can do something clean that just shows the individual units, and maybe just have modulation with some details here and there that'll just point out the different units, that's more than enough. I think it gets super expensive every time that you're moving the building, every time that you're putting in a new material, every time that you're just changing anything, and it's already expensive to build already. So I think staff can be reasonable on what that means. Lighting, I think that as long as there's something that the applicant can work with staff on what's reasonable to make sure that we're safe based on what lumen that is or isn't, I think that there should be some discretion there. Just you'll know better than us on what needs to be in place. The easement, I agree with the commissioners on the easement that we don't need to have that. So I'd say that we just need to be sure that on the conditions that we're removing, both 5 and 6 on page 11, and then also on page 9, condition 3E4. And then as far as the next, I don't believe that we need to move this to another meeting or postpone it. I would say let's go ahead and move forward with the conditions based on if we're all in agreement with the motion. That's all I have. So any further discussion on this matter? All right, then we can take it to vote. Entertain a motion.
I thought you just made one. Kent, you want to take a shot? I don't know if I wrote down enough of those conditions.
We can take a shot.
You want?
Yeah, I can try. Mr. Chair, I move that we recommend approval that it moves forward to the city council for subdivision FY 2025-004. And on the decision document that we remove item 3E4 on page 9 and items 5 and 6 on page 11. under the draft conditions. Is that how we call it, draft conditions? Is that sufficient or do I need to add like anything else?
I would say if there's still a question of the lighting and providing discretion, then that was on.
Okay, got it right here. The lighting, that I move as part of the same motion that it stays as staff has written it and the lumens aren't specifically delineated as it would be in code, but it's how it's written on the decision. I think I might have. Are we looking at number 9 on page 12?
Yeah, number 9 on page 12, that carries on to page 13.
This is written as staff wants to see it, so we're not changing anything on it, right?
On the lighting?
Yeah. Or is it's written according to code and we're saying that we don't need to have it say 260 lumens. I don't see that on here. That's why I'm getting caught up and I'm sorry.
I think that it just says all light fixtures must be compliant with Garden City Code 8-4 A-4. So I think that it's limiting it to code, or I think that we would want to provide staff with the discretion to make a decision based on what's best for the subdivision.
Thank you. That's what I was trying to say, but you did that so much better. So as part of that motion, that we make staff have discretion on the lighting when it goes through for the subdivision.
We also want to do something similar with regard to color differentiation. Give staff
Give staff
discretion.
Discretion there too.
Yes, give staff
Same way.
discretion on color,
Right.
the color deviation.
Good enough.
I would second it.
I have a motion and a second. Any further deliberation on this item? Hearing none, we'll take it to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any noes? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. All right, we will now move on the agenda to item C, which is CUPFY 2025-0013. For conditional use permit, Tyler Messina is requesting a conditional use for reptile zoo comparable to GCC designated uses of animal care facility and commercial entertainment facility located at 3725 West Chinden Boulevard, Ada County, located in the C1 Highway Commercial Zoning District. Again, the applicant may go to the podium and then state your name and address for the record, please. And the floor is yours.
That's what she got.
Thank you very much for checking.
My name is Tyler Messina. I'm lucky enough to be the director and the president of the Idaho Reptile Zoo. We're looking to get our CUP for our new facility on Chinden Boulevard. According to an email we got, I believe yesterday, it was tentatively approved, which I definitely I appreciate that. There were some other recommendations in that in order to get the full approval, and we were just kind of hoping to reach kind of a common median as far as how we can both be on the same page. Some of the ones we noticed were like the bike parking, asking for 18 spaces. We do currently have, I believe, 10 spaces. We're definitely willing to put in those last 8, totally fine. The Stockton improvements behind us with the new fencing and the landscape planners, we can definitely do those as well. The biggest one is the sidewalk improvements with the what do they call it, the cuts in the sidewalk or the driveway. those are, as far as we've looked into it, they're a little out of our, I guess, ballpark price range, ahead of our pay grade kind of thing. So we were hoping we can kind of reach some sort of agreement, or what's the word I'm trying to think of?
Compromise.
There you go, compromise. And if we can just do like the planners in the front, and the little things that passed out. We do have a photo of what we kind of had in mind. That's obviously not a full, that's just a rendering of what we've seen done. We would appreciate if we can do that as well, at least for the time being. And the last one, just the access taken from the parking lot with larger no parking signs, more planners, that sort of thing. We understand we have to do the back end parking off of Stockton, just to make sure it's a safer in and out for our employees in the back of the building. All things we're willing to do. We'd love if we can get the possibility to maybe extend it out, get the approval for the CUP, let us open, get some funding, and get it all done within the 24-month period. That's honestly all we really have. As far as we were told, the building we moved into already had an existing CUP. It was very specific for axe throwing. So we're just basically trying to make it fit our use.
Understood. Thank you very much for the presentation. So in the decision document that has the highlights, this is the document that you received and you reviewed it?
Yes.
Okay. And just to make sure that I'm understanding correctly, really what you're looking at. So you don't have any problems with the parking and not having parking in the front. And then so and then there's some required improvements along Chinden, and that's really what you're talking about, is the improvements along Chinden, which includes closing down the entrances off of Chinden.
Correct. There was, you kind of, I don't know how to access all your stuff. But you brought up the picture for the front, and I can kind of show you and explain what we're talking about. Thank you. There we go. Yeah, you're open. So if you see in the front, for the current. Oh, there we go. So, so if you notice in the front, for the current CUP that's in place on the building, they had the striping and no parking put on the concrete with the parking sign basically to the appropriate parking area. We understand that a lot of people don't see that until they're actually up on that area, so they don't know there's no parking. We don't want people to be put in danger coming in and out of Chinden in that area. We are definitely willing to block it off just to kind of keep people from entering on those little sidewalks, because everyone wants that nice VIP parking. It's not available.
And then have you gotten a proposal for how much it would cost just to add curb, gutter, and sidewalk just on that to close in those two areas?
We have not looked into that part as yet. We were kind of under the impression that the planners would suffice, at least for now or temporarily. So I have not done the I guess the work into seeing how much that would be. I do know, as far as I'm told, there are plans for our building later on in the future that involve the property owner. We are just currently leasing the space, so I don't know if that's, like, again, out of my wheelhouse or that sort of thing, or our call to make.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner
if
Brown.
I have a question. I understand what you're saying, and what you're requesting is what we would approve would be in accordance with this this rendering that you provided, correct?
Correct.
But what you are proposing is that you wouldn't remove the curb cuts or the approach that are there. Is that correct? That you would leave them like they are?
No, that is not our, we would like to be able to. I'm not saying that I'm standing firm on that. I'm just saying we would love the opportunity to get more of a longer timeline to get it done while we're still in operation.
That's all we put for the time being, that, but you understand, do you understand, sir, that was a requirement for ITD?
Okay,
Since they own the right of way, I believe that was a requirement was in there, so. We do have the ability to give them time to do that, but that is a requirement of ITD, I believe. That those be closed.
I'm
I'll be asking,
just curious, I'm very new to all of, this
Yeah.
is intimidating as I'll get out to tell you guys now. I'm just curious, with the current CUP in place on the building for the axe throwing, do you know why it would be, with both being indoor entertainment, do you know why it would all of a sudden be such a, forced issue kind of thing?
it's a requirement of the Idaho Transportation Department that they have in there because of closing down those kind of things. Just because of what has happened. This probably was a previous requirement. And that it wasn't done. Instead, they just marked out the parking places, but as been pointed out in the staff report,
Okay,
there are cars that continue to go do it until they park there. So that's why they require it.
okay, no, absolutely, yeah. And honestly, even while we've been there trying, like, kind of cleaning up the place and getting acquainted with
Yeah.
it, we've seen people pull up all day, so
I-
we completely
I
understand
understand.
the issue.
So, but essentially for the time being, or with some kind of a time, you would be agreeable, understanding it if we left the requirement there, but we gave you some kind of a time frame to have that fully accomplished.
Absolutely,
And in the meantime, you're requesting that the requirement for the landscaping that be altered to what you have presented in this drawing. Is that correct?
absolutely.
All right. I understand. That's all. Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? All right, thank you, sir.
Of course.
Good evening, Commission. And just for the record, I'm Jenna Thornborough presenting tonight for file number CUP fiscal year 2025, number 13. And as mentioned in the introduction by Chairman Montoya, that the uses tonight that best describe this application per Garden City Code are animal care facility and commercial entertainment facility. Ideally, code would have every use under the sun, but that's just not feasible. And so Garden City Code has some requirements under use determination if there's not a clean category to fit within. That includes the impact on the neighborhood, intensity on services, bless you. And then the North American Industrial Classification System, what classification the use might fall in, where that is much more robust and changing much more frequently than our code is. The purpose of the district and the comprehensive plan, because there are animals in this facility, we don't have a lot of different uses that look to addressing animals differently. And for that reason, the animal care facility was triggered in looking how to classify this particular use, as well as the entertainment side of things. In that the applicant has presented that dealing with Stockton and adding the landscaping along Stockton and addressing, I understood also addressing the parking spaces back there was okay, and adding some landscaping and adding that into their site. I really am going to focus on Chinden, but I do want to point out the conditions that I think you might be looking at in the draft decision document that my coworker Maria Antonova drafted for you tonight, and those are number 3, number 5, number 6, and number 7. Number 3 deals with parking, which may be acceptable. Where code has recently changed, it says that unless backing onto an alley, backing out onto a street is not allowed. And Stockton is an interesting road. In many ways, it functions as an alley, but in many ways, it's also a road. And we do have just to note, when staff has reviewed that with other applications, Aussie Car Store or Aussie's is a good example. Backing into Stockton was not allowed because of that street component, as I understand. And then landscaping, I will go to an aerial. I do. Landscaping would be triggered on the far side of the parking lot, between the two parking lots as well. I suspect that there is probably room there, but there is a lot of landscaping triggered in this application between the parking areas, as well as along Stockton and Chinden. And then to get into this a little bit more in depth, ITD did require, to Commissioner Brown's point, the closure of these two aprons. And I had not seen the applicant's proposal until you saw it as well tonight. And if you do entertain utilizing kind of those landscaping boxes as a way to secure closing the aprons instead of having them taken out completely. I do want to point out that code does require an irrigation system. There's been another application that came through not too long ago. The commissioners are shaking their head, but they had negotiated having a dedicated service come in to make sure that they were being irrigated. And the other thing that staff does want to point out is city code does allow for the use of a surety to get businesses in so they can start making money while they're working towards making improvements. That does tie up things. Either you need a bond, a letter of credit, or the city holds cash in trust, but there is a way to move in while the city holds on to a surety. So there's an extended time frame to be able to work on improvements should the commission go that route as well. And with that, I'll try to keep it nice and brief. And if you have any other questions for me, I stand for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Thornborough. Any questions?
I do have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Brown?
Jenna, and thank you for confirming. I was pretty positive that that was a requirement. If we were to put something in there that would give them a reasonable period of time before they have to remove those curb cuts and restore the sidewalk, would you have a suggestion of what we might be thinking about?
Chairman, Commissioner Brown, I know there is a price tag certainly that's associated with removing an apron. And I can't speak to the financial situation of the applicant. Perhaps they could on a rebuttal. Typically, we like to keep a surety around a year. We could extend it. Conditional use approvals, unless otherwise conditioned, this is something else you could look at, are for 1 year. And so it's nice and clean to keep those together. Not that we couldn't separate the standard expiration, but you could give a longer expiration if you wanted to give, say, 2 years and have ideally the surety would then correspond, or whatever it is that you would come up with. 10 years might be really hard on administration, for example, for us to make sure that we're keeping on top of that and not letting it go through the cracks. But I would think 1 to 2 years is something that is within the administration that we're accustomed to, and we have a system that we could administer.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
That's all.
So you mentioned, I think that it's Blazik. That was the one that had that. And if memory serves me correctly, there was 2 situations that were dealt with in that CUP. One was that the planters were used to effectively close down the entrances because same situation. And was that acceptable to ITD as a way to close off the entrances?
Chairman, it's in effect. So I would say yes. One thing that I would also like to suggest, and I've written this down, and thank you for prompting me with this question, is we have seen when there's been a requirement to close and they're not physically removed, that years down the road, individuals want to reopen them as the buildings change. And so I would suggest, if the commission is leaning towards that direction of closing down with planters, that there also be a requirement that the property owner acknowledge that those are permanently closed, so that ITD and the city don't have to keep coming back and saying, no, you need to close those, you need to close those.
Understood. Thank you. And then part of the other discussion with the Blazik CUP was also the fact that it was an existing use. There was already pavement down. It would have been extremely burdensome to install landscaping, which then meant irrigation as well. And so I believe that the planters were serving two purposes. One was to provide for landscaping, and then also as a way to close down the entrances. Is that correct?
And Chairman, and I believe that is absolutely correct, that was in lieu of the landscaping requirements of code.
And in that sense, because it was hard to understand the total site allowance, it was more based on working with staff on what was going to be acceptable, correct?
Chairman, yes, that one, if I remember correctly, and I might have to look at Ms. Beal a little bit too, or the commission, and that you were all involved with that as well. I think that the direction was to work with staff to try to get that landscaping would be commensurate with the required landscaping. I know their site was difficult to find locations, and so that might be a little bit different than this one, where, in my opinion, this site has more opportunity to find areas for landscaping.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions? Thank you. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. All right, at this point, we will go ahead and open the hearing up to public testimony. Do we have any sign-up sheets on this? Ms. Thornborough, any sign-up sheets?
And Chairman, there are no sign-up sheets in the basket. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. Anybody from the audience here that would like to testify? All right, seeing none, we will go ahead and then turn it back over to the applicant for rebuttal. And I can't remember if I got your address the first time, so if you would state your name and address for the record, just to make sure that we have it. I think it's residential.
Okay, so I just didn't know. My name is Tyler Messina. My address is 4686 South Tenderis Avenue in Meridian, Idaho.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to kind of touch down on a couple of the points. As far as the usage for the CEP being classified as animal care facility, like it says in your little thing I handed out to you guys, the animal care facility is more like a vet hospital, dog boarding, grooming, that sort of thing. Our animals are there as an entertainment, education-based environment. We're not seeing people's animals. We're not doing vaccinations. We're not doing exams, that sort of thing. Classifying us as animal care is much similar to like the axe room being a blacksmith, because they were sharpening their axes for axe throwing. It's basically a secondary use for what we're using the building for. We're all about education through interaction. Our animals are out, they're around people, they're being used in a hands-on education environment. And then as far as there was something else. As far as the landscape throughout the property, whether it's along Chinden, along Stockton, we understand the landscape is part of code. We definitely want to reach code, and we are more than happy to do whatever possible to be in compliance with everything. If we could, like we said, even temporarily use those to not only block the cuts, but as well as reach that landscape code, that would be amazing. And if we can get that little bit of time, possibly the 2 years would be great. We touched down on our financial status. This move was a very all of a sudden move for our staff. We had a very, what's the word? I don't want to be I don't want to talk down on him, but it was a it was a very weird situation that we had to move very abruptly. It wasn't anything necessarily on our end. It was very much on the property owners end that we used to work with. So our financial status, we're not exactly able to go out tomorrow and get a contractor out here and fill those cuts. But we will definitely do it as soon as we possibly can, especially within any kind of time frame we're given. The staff is amazing. We've been able to pull off amazing things. I have every bit of confidence in the world that we can get it done.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Brown?
Mr. Chairman, the gentleman answered the first question I was going to ask, if he would suggest a reasonable time frame per what Jenna said, and he provided that answer already. I think your answer to that is maybe 2 years.
Correct.
And
I mean, I'm not opposed to the 10.
no, I understand. But the second item is not a question, it's sort of a comment to explain why this is. ITD is the owner of the right-of-way, and Chinden is the principal arterial. So they have had a plan for a very long time to reduce the number of access points onto Chinden, because every one of them is a potential accident. So it has been their plan in all developments for maybe over 10 years, maybe twice that. Whenever something comes in like this, they recommend and they request that we follow on and support it, where they can close all those access points and limit access to Chinden to where there are road intersections. So that's why that put that requirement in. And so it's been there for a very long time. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, and just to add, I mean, I understand that especially that area is so congested, having all those different off kind of output input from that little small area is dangerous, really. And not only do we care with keeping up with compliance, it's also more important for us to make sure our community is safe. If there's anything we can do to limit any kind of negative interaction, we're all for it.
Any other questions for the applicant? All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much for your time.
All right, at this point, we will close the public hearing and bring this matter before the commission. And on this item, we are a decision-making body for the CUP. Commissioner Shepard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would be in favor of giving a 2-year surety for this because of the expense involved in having to redo the curb cuts. And I was part of the Blazek decision, and I drive by it every day, and I think I like the way it looks. So as far as the landscaping goes, at least it will be better than what's there now, which is the lines that people aren't really adhering to. They're still parking there. So that's my take on that. But I would say it definitely would have to require, I don't think there's irrigation there already, so it would require upkeep, and I don't know how you guys would want to do that, but.
Sorry.
At this point, since we're close to the public hearing, we can't have any other testimony, but we'll discuss it.
Yeah, we just have to be part of the negotiation that it stays maintained and watered and everything. Yeah, I think that's all I have on it. I would be in favor of approving it with that surety.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Shepard. And just so that everybody in the audience who may not know, we had a CUP a couple of months, maybe a year ago or so, kind of similar situation. So next time you're out, you can look at it. It's on the opposite side of Chinden, just probably closer to 37th.
It's at 37th and Chinden.
Yeah, that has kind of a similar situation. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about the Blazak or Blizek, just so that you have some context. They did planters, so. Commissioner Brown?
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm in favor of approving this. And with the decision document as it's written, with the exception of modifying the street number 5, which is the streetscape requirements, and putting the requirement in the ITD put on them, closing the 2 approaches there that are curb cuts, and substituting for that, for them to, in the short term, close them and also meet the requirements for landscaping in the front by installing planters pretty much as they put in the proposal, and adding to that a requirement that those planters either have an irrigation system installed with them, a drip kind, or as we did in the one that you already mentioned, have a requirement in them that they have a contract with somebody to take care of watering. And otherwise, what happens if we don't put that kind of a requirement in there? 2 months after you do it originally, we would be going by and there would be a bunch of dead plants there. So that's why we put that requirement in there, and that we put some wording in there that the curb cuts and restoration of the sidewalk in the front, they be given a grace period of up to 2 years in order for them before it has to be accomplished.
Hey, Commissioner Brown, Commissioner Wilde?
I agree with Commissioner Brown and Commissioner Shepard. I think I was leaning more toward the 1 year, but I'm not opposed to 2 years. So I would also support changing that requirement to allow for planters in front. I will say that those will need to be maintained, and we will, as part of the conditional use permit, require that they remain with live and green plantings. So they will need to be irrigated. So I am supportive as well.
Thank you, Commissioner Wilds. I echo the fellow commissioners. I don't know that I have much to add except for condition number 7, and this is that overall landscaping shall be in conformance. I don't know whether or not we have a need to modify this because it does talk about the frontage of Chinden as well in condition 7. So I don't know if the motion should include some sort of language that any reference to the frontage of Chinden regarding landscaping shall be based on the approval in the CUP for the planters and the maintenance, and any other landscaping that would be applied to Stockton would be per condition 6. And then there's potentially a need to work with staff on obtaining some sort of overall landscaping that would meet as close to code as we can. Ms. Thornborough, is that probably how we would need to handle that? Because I think that we could get into a problem if we're saying site percentages, if we're using planters and then limiting some of the frontage to only Stockton.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Brown.
we could probably use some of the same language we just used. Put clause in there that for the overall requirement that be at the discretion of the staff to work out, considering that we modified the front, and then they could work out an agreeable thing. Let the staff do that. They can do that.
Ms. Thornborough.
Chairman, one thing that I'm trying to think through how to make sure that that's fixed is these are based off of the code requirements. So I'm wondering if we just put that it's in conformance or as determined by staff as reasonably I don't know the word there, but able per site constraints. And then keep those conditions, might that be something that? you
So,
put in there?
so, and you're talking about condition 7?
Mhm.
So in condition 7, basically, we would just, like you said, just work with staff to provide for some sort of discretion based on certain site constraints, and then leave the rest so that if we need to modify that, you have the discretion to do so.
Chairman, I thought that that was what you were
Yep.
trying to get at and trying to figure out how to get the right wording there. But if that's what the motion ends up with, we'll make sure that the correct wording's in there.
Yep, that, I was just making sure that we were good.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
no, That's right. All right, any other discussion on this item?
No.
All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Brown,
I think I'll make a stab at it, all right? I move that we approve CUP FY 2025 number 13, the conditional use permit for conditional use for a reptile zoo comparable Garden City Code designated uses of animal care facility, commercial entertainment facility at 3725 West Chinden Boulevard. And the rest of it as noted. In accordance with the draft decision document with the following modifications or amendments. In number 5, requirement number 5 on the streetscape, etc. on Chinden, that it be substituted in lieu of those landscaping requirements and other requirements, that they be allowed to in place planners, which will serve the purpose of providing the necessary landscaping as well as a temporary closure of the 2 curb cuts required by ITD to be closed. That include a requirement for them to provide a contractor to maintain and perpetuity the landscaping that's in the planners, that they be provided with regard to closing the curb cuts, that they be provided a time of 2 years before that has to be accomplished. Closing the curb cuts and restoring the sidewalk that is associated with those curb cuts. And that with regard to condition number 7, having to do with general landscaping requirements, that be modified to read that those requirements will be as determined by the staff in discussion with the applicant and considering the site constraints of that location. I think that would do it.
thank you, Commissioner Brown. I have a motion from Commissioner Brown. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Commissioner Wilde. Any further discussion on this item?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Wilde.
Jenna, the maker of the motion didn't reference a surety. Do you need that as part of the motion for the 2-year
And
delay?
Chairman, Commissioner Wilde, we do not, because it's already embedded in code that we can use it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. Any other discussion on this item? All right, with that, we'll take it to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any noes? You guys have it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. With that, there are no other items on the agenda. Anything else to discuss?
Chairman.
All right, having none, we will adjourn. Thank you very much.